Welcome, guys, to the NFL Week 13. Pumped for this week. Hope you guys had a good Week 12 and Thanksgiving week. My plays on the Patreon was 3-1. I had two totals on Thanksgiving over that both cashed. I had the Bills plus 3.5 that cashed. I had the Bills myself on a money line. As money line on a parlay. Unfortunately came up short, but the 3.5 cash, they should obviously have won that game outright. And then I had the Chargers, that was my lone loss for the week, plus 5.5. I had them, it was plus 3.5 on the Patreon. That was the more accurate line. And the Chargers somehow did not cover. They were losing by 3. Last play, essentially, a 3rd-and-3 for Baltimore. First down, they can run the clock out. And what do the Chargers do? They do what the Chargers do. Gave up a 40-yard touchdown run and blew the cover. So if you have the Ravens, caught a break there. So 3-1 for me. 27-19 on the season. Could have been a perfect week. Should have been a perfect week. That Buffalo loss was tough. It helped with the refs and all the penalties for Buffalo in the first half. Still should have won that damn game. And then questionable defensive play calling again by McDermott. Guys got to be fired. Buffalo too good to be losing games like this. Had over 500 yards of offense, and they won the turnover battle, and they still lost the game in just Bill fashion, and the Chargers as well. Staley, I don't know how he's a coach still, but he's obviously beyond borrowed time at this point. I think he'll be gone by the end of the season. So now we head into week 13. I'm going to try to keep this rolling, guys. A like, subscribe, comment. Link will be in the description for the Patreon, guys. Join because we're cashing at a 58% on the season, having a good year. This week, I'm going to go through all the games minus the Sunday night and Monday night games. I don't really have an opinion on those games. And I'm just going to give you my opinion on all the games and then my official plays, or leans, and they're not always equal plays. Sometimes it's a 2% bet, 3%, 4%, depending on how strongly I feel. Those will be on my Patreon. I'm not going to have a breakdown on the Patreon this week because I'm going to talk about a lot of these games in a little bit of detail in the video. So first game, Arizona and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is laying 5.5 to 6 points. This game here, if I'm going to play it, I'm honestly just going to take Arizona. It's a slight lean to Arizona. Reason being is Arizona's defense is not good. They're bottom of the league. The good news for them is that Pittsburgh's offense sucks. Now they fired their offensive coordinator last week and they seem to be a little bit rejuvenated. They had over 400 yards of offense, but they still only scored 16 points. And I'm not going to take credit for this line, but what I heard from another sport bettor was the Steelers offense was pretty much that's like going to the clubs. I'm going to put this to a PG version. Going to the clubs, getting 70 phone numbers, and going home alone. So who cares about all the yards? They didn't score points. And asking the Steelers to win by any sort of margin is that's tough. I don't know why the Steelers are laying 5.5 to anybody. Arizona doesn't look great. But if I'm going to play it, I think Arizona could win this game. I would just take the points with the Arizona Cardinals. Next game, Atlanta and the Jets. Atlanta laying 2 on the road. I said it last week with the Jets. I know my buddy Anthony's not going to hearing this, but I said it with Miami. If I'm playing, I'm laying because I didn't want any part of the Jets last week. I don't know how much that changes this week. I think that the play in this game is, I don't know what the total is. I'm guessing it's low. I probably would take the under. I still don't know how the Jets are going to score. Atlanta has a pretty good pass defense. They're a better team than New York. But when the Falcons are laying points on the road, you're playing a bad team. So it's hard for this one. My lean would be to Atlanta, but this is going to be an ugly game either way. I expect a 1 or 2 point game in this game. Denver, Houston laying 2.5 to 3 points. Denver is hot right now, looking to make a push for the playoffs. Houston, tough loss last week against Jacksonville, lost at the end of the game there. I think Houston, honestly, at home is probably the side. I think this is a tough game. It should be a close game, but I think Houston is a better team than Denver is. I know Denver's, they're hot right now, but I'm still not into this Denver offense. I still think they have trouble moving the ball, and I think you're going to need to do that against Houston because they do move the ball and score points. So I would take the Texans. Detroit and New Orleans. Detroit laying about 4 to 4.5 on the road. Detroit's stock dropped last week a little bit. Losing that game on Thanksgiving to Green Bay was tough. But Detroit has played well all season. To me, they're in my top 5 in my power rankings in the league. I actually have them 4th in the league right now, believe it or not. Because Detroit, as bad as they looked the last 2 weeks, because they barely beat Chicago, they were -3 in turnovers in each of the last 2 weeks, and still got a win against Chicago. So here's a stat for you. Going back to over 300 game sample size, if you're -3 in the turnover department, you only win the game 9% of the time. And Detroit won that game against Chicago. They turned over the ball again last week. So for me, Detroit's beating themselves. That they're a better team than what they've been showing the last couple of weeks. Who knows? People might drop Detroit a little bit in their rankings, but I still think they're a good team. Goff's got to protect the ball. What I do know is New Orleans is a bad team. They're purely a sell team. I was wrong on this Saints team because early in the year I said, well, I kind of buy them. I thought with Derek Carr over time, as he got used to the receivers, that in the second half of the season, the Saints would be a buy team, and they've honestly just been the same, if not worse. So they're a sell team. The coach is bad. Derek Carr's bad. New Orleans is banged up. They have no receivers. Olave maybe plays, but he's in concussion protocol. They're missing everyone else. Thomas is gone. All those guys are out. Detroit's a healthier team. They have extra rest. They're coming off a loss. They're laying road chalk, which I don't usually like to bet, but the Saints offensively are terrible. And Detroit's good against the run. They've been getting chewed up in the secondary a little bit, but they're pretty good rush defense. New Orleans is just, they can't score points. So I don't know how you keep up with Detroit. I expect the Lions to win this game by margin, and they have done that this season on the road, taking the better team, laying it on the road. Give me the Detroit Lions. Indy and Tennessee. This game is Indy now is a 1 to 1.5 point favorite. Tennessee has been terrible on the road. They're 0-6, but they've been okay at home. Small home dog. No Taylor for the Colts. Not that he made much of a difference this season anyway. But I would lean towards Tennessee, just because they've played well at home this season. Indy is not looking good by any means, and the Titans, I just think without Tannehill at quarterback, I think that the rookie gives them a little bit extra, offensively, not much, but I think the Titans are good enough to kind of squeak out an ugly win, probably a 3-point game either way. But I think Tennessee is going to get it done here at home and beat the Colts. Chargers in New England. This game I do not care about whatsoever. I said last week when New England was playing the Giants and they were a 3 or 3.5 point road dog or favorite, I said, why are the Patriots laying 3 on the road if they can't score 3 points? And they lost the game 10-7 in what might have been the most boring game of the year. Now they're a 6-point home dog. No idea who the quarterback is. Who cares? But why are the Chargers laying 6 points on the road to anybody? Because they also suck. So why even play this game? Because either way, you're going to be pissed off no matter what team you bet. So I'm passing completely on the Chargers and the Patriots. Miami and Washington. Miami's a 9.5 point favorite. I think if you get 10 to 10.5, you're going to get buyback on Washington. There's not a lot of reasons to back Washington because this team is in full sell mode. They're going to have new coaching, everything. Rivera's gone at the end of the year. At the end of the year, they'll have new ownership, all that stuff. Miami, I don't really want to lay 10 points on the road again with Miami like last week. I honestly just think a lean is to Washington, but you're going to hate your freaking guts betting the Washington Foreskins in this game. Carolina and Tampa Bay. This is an interesting game. Tampa's laying 5.5 at home. Again, one of those spots is who is Tampa to be laying 5.5 to anybody? So not so much a bet on Carolina, more of a fade on Tampa. I think they've lost 6 of their last 7. Baker Mayfield's banged up. Offensively, they haven't really done much. Defensively, they're okay, not great. Carolina's a mess top to bottom, but I like this angle here. It's a divisional game. You just fired their coach. First game after firing a coach, you usually have a little bit more energy. We saw that with the Raiders after they fired Josh McDaniels there. So I think Carolina coming out of this is going to play a little bit more fiery this week. This happened last season. They fired their coach halfway through the season as well, and they went into the Rams and beat them 24-10. I think Carolina keeps this game close. I think it's like a 17-13 type of game either way. I think Carolina can win. 5.5 is just way too many points for Tampa to be laying. And that's saying a lot because they're playing a 1-10 complete ass of a team. But I think Carolina's defense keeps them around. I think the offense will do just enough in this game. Carolina is the play for me, plus the points. Last 2 games, Cleveland and the Rams. Rams 4 to 4.5 point favorite. This is the Rams for me all day, simply because Cleveland's so injured. Their injury list is long. Don't know who the quarterback's going to be. DTR's in concussion protocol. He hasn't practiced all week. The other guy, Walker, he's terrible. He's obviously not an NFL quarterback. Joe Flacco might play. He's not good, obviously. So they don't have a quarterback. Amari Cooper got hurt last week. Myles Garrett might play. He got hurt last week as well. So this team is just injured all over the place. They're still a very good defensive team, but they also have Denzel Ward's also hurt. So I don't know how Cleveland can score a lot of points in this game. I don't even know how they get to 20 points in this game because they don't have a quarterback. They're like the Jets right now. The Rams have won a couple in a row. They don't look great, but I think, laying 4.5 at home for the Rams is not too much to ask. It's going to come down to the offensive and defensive lines. Is Cleveland's D line going to be able to get after Stafford? Because if they do, it's going to be a long day. The Rams' Achilles heel is they can't run, which they ran the ball really well last week, which is part of the reason why they won. And they don't have an offensive line. So if they can protect Stafford, I think the Rams roll in this game. But they just haven't been consistent running and protecting him week to week. And that's my one worry with the Rams. Otherwise, they're just a healthier team. They're probably the hungrier team. They're at home. I think Cleveland is, honestly, they're a sell team right now. I just think they're too banged up and they don't have a quarterback. So give me the Rams -4 to 4.5. I was going to say something else about that game, but I don't remember. Doesn't matter. Oh, I said last week they rolled. But I said last week there's 2 teams the Rams can beat. That's Arizona and Seattle. And there you have it. They beat Seattle again. They're 4-1 in the division. The Rams are. And they're 1-5 outside the division. So I don't take too much stock on their big win last week because they always beat a team like Arizona. But I still think, based on Cleveland's injury report, the Rams are going to win this game. Last game of the week, San Francisco, Philadelphia. San Fran's 2.5 to 3. If you get anything under 3, it's San Francisco all day. I've watched enough of Philly. I bet on them against Dallas a couple weeks ago. I bet against them last week. I bet against them when they play Kansas City, and they have maneuvered through the schedule, beating Dallas, beating Kansas City, beating Buffalo. Now they got San Francisco, then they got Dallas next week. This team has to be exhausted. I just don't think they go through this stretch in their schedule. They're just winning games, and they're barely winning. They're 10-1 with a net points of plus, 61 or something like that. It doesn't make sense. They shouldn't have a 10-1 record. They're not as fraudulent, obviously, as the Vikings were last year. Not that bad, but they're not a strong 10-1 team. And that's why the markets are saying, yeah, San Francisco, you're a road favorite. And this is the first time in history that a team that's 10-1 is a home dog with their starting quarterback. So this is saying something. They're just not as good. They're still a good team, but I have Philadelphia as the 5th best team in the league. To me, they're not, they're just not a 1, 2, or 3 team. So San Francisco is a play for me. Coming off a little bit extra rest, I believe, because they played the Thanksgiving game. Better scheduling spot for them. I don't think they care about going to the East Coast. They typically do well going there anyway. Better defensive team. Offensively, maybe they're both good in different ways, pretty even, but defensively, not even close. Philly's defense, specifically their secondary, is not good. This is the middle of the road defense. San Francisco is a top 3 defense. Give me the Niners. Subscribe, comment, guys. Join the Patreon. We're going to have a good week. Good luck.